The Senate Committee on Natural Resources will now come to order. Will the Secretary please call roll?
Senator Flores?
Present.
Senator Goycochea?
Here.
Senator Hansen?
Here.
Senator Pazina?
Here.
Senator Scheibel?
Here. There are 5 members present, so we have a quorum. I'd like to welcome everyone to the first meeting on the Senate Committee on Natural Resources, including those watching online. My name is Senator Julie Pazina, and it is my honor to serve as the chair of the committee for the 2023 session. I have had the opportunity to serve on the board of Nevada Conservation League. I've had the opportunity to serve on the commission, the Tourism Commission, which has given me the opportunity to really have a chance to see more about the rural communities that make up this beautiful state and their outdoor tourism resources, and I'm so excited to be here. Before we get to introductions of our committee members, I'd like to mention a special committee member who's been part of the legislature and the Natural Resources family for 20 years. He's serving in his last session, and he'll be missed by the entire body, but especially by those in the Natural Resources Committee and community. Senator Goycochea served his community as a Eureka County Commissioner for 16 years prior to his election to the Assembly, and we really look forward to working with him and learning from him this session. With that said, I'd like to invite our committee members to introduce yourselves and to provide any comments they would like. And I will start with the vice chair that I'm very fortunate to have this session, Senator Melanie Scheibel.
Thank you so much, Chair Pazina. My name is Melanie Scheibel. I am the state senator for District 9 in the southwest part of Las Vegas. I'm so happy to be back with all of you on natural resources. I chaired this committee in the 2019 session, and I was the vice chair in the 2021 session. And so this is my third session at the legislature and my third session on natural resources. And I'm looking forward to all of the wonderful discussions and policy decisions that we're going to be having and making this year. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Scheibel. I'd like to move to my right to Senator Flores.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I represent Senate District 2, Northeast Las Vegas. My predecessor, Senator Mo Dennis, served honorably, but he hit his terms, and I have a huge shoes to fill. I think he did a lot of great work. I had the opportunity to first get elected in 2015 in the Nevada State Assembly, and this is my first time that I'll have the privilege of sitting on this committee, and I look forward to sitting next to someone who's had the privilege of being here now for 20 years. So I know there's a wealth of knowledge here, and I will rely on my colleagues to serve the state well.
Thank you so much, Senator Flores. And moving to my left, Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is my 7th legislative session, and 6 of those I've served on natural resources. I represent District 14, which includes portions of Elko and Eureka counties, and all of Lander, Pershing, Mineral, and a large section of Washoe County. It's about 34,000 square miles, so these issues are exceptionally important to my district. And honestly, this is my favorite committee because most of the issues that I really personally love come through this committee. So I'm looking forward to this. This is the third time in the Senate I had a brand new chair. So congratulations to the chair, you're doing fine. So thank you.
Give me a little bit of time, Senator. I'd love to move to my right to Senator Goycochea.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and there's a lot to be said about being old. So, the bottom line, this is my 11th session and my 11th time in natural resources, I believe. I don't think I missed a slot. Again, it's what I live and do, and so I really look forward to the opportunity and working with the new chair, and as well as I've always found in natural resources, we can find some middle ground. It just might be a long ways down. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator. I'd like to also introduce our committee staff. Our committee policy analyst is Elisa Keller. Elisa will be helping me and the committee with background and research on the potentially complex issues that come before the committee. Would you like to share anything?
Well, thank you, Chair Pazina. No, I am just happy to be here and happy to assist the committee. Thank you.
Our committee legal counsel, Erin Sturdivant. Erin will be providing legal advice and working with me and other committee staff on bill amendments and other legal matters. Erin, is there anything you'd like to share? Thank you very much. Our committee manager, who's also my legislative assistant, Cameron McClymans. Cameron will be preparing agendas, uploading exhibits to Nellis, interfacing with the front desk and the Secretary of the Senate, and as my legislative assistant, keeping me on track, which will be the busiest job of all. Stand up, Cameron, so everyone can see you. Thank you so much. Our committee secretaries are Sherry Dittler and Donna Kennedy, and they'll be attending all of our meetings, preparing minutes, and will assist us with a variety of tasks as they come up. Thank you very, very much. Finally, I'd like to thank our broadcast and production services staff who will be helping us at each and every meeting. And thank you so much in advance to our committee staff for the hard work you're doing throughout the session to make sure that everything runs smoothly and everyone has the opportunity to share their thoughts and views on natural resources. Has everyone had the opportunity to review the rules and policies? Okay, great. Our first order of business is reviewing and approving the committee rules. The proposed rules are fairly standard and complement the Senate standing rules that we adopted on the first day of session. The rules have been posted on Nellis and were emailed to members prior to this meeting. Are there any questions? Okay, great. I would accept a motion to adopt the committee rules. Do I have a second?
Second.
Wonderful. Senator Hansen with the motion and Vice Chair Scheibel with the second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion carries. We're off to a great start in natural resources. In addition to the committee rules, I'd like to provide some general reminders. The committee will begin promptly at 3:30 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you are detained for any reason, please let myself or the staff know as early as possible. If members must leave a meeting, please again let myself or the staff know if or when you plan to return. Committee members will be courteous to each other and to witnesses. We want to create an atmosphere of professionalism and respect. Be sure to mute laptops and turn off cell phones. If it rings, one of us may answer it up here. The public is advised that during meetings, legislators and staff are using laptops to view bills and exhibits and not for personal reasons. We're trying to be as paper-free as possible, so please don't think that us looking at our laptops is a sign of inattention or disrespect to your testimony. Please note that we'll be requiring everyone to submit exhibits in an electronic format the day before the meeting. A few reminders about testifying before the meeting. Please do sign in at the table by the door. I saw a number of you doing that today. Thank you. Please give the committee secretary your business card if you have one prior to testifying. And even if you're not testifying, you may want to sign in anyway so that there's a record of who's interested in a particular bill in case the committee needs to contact you later. When testifying, please turn on the microphone and clearly state your name and affiliation, if any, for the record. Please also spell your name. Then turn the microphone off each time you're done speaking. If you have handouts for the committee, you'll be asked to provide 10 hard copies to the committee secretary for use by the public. We will be taking public comment at the end of each meeting. I will be limiting public comment to 2 minutes per person to ensure everyone gets a chance to speak. Please feel free to provide any additional comments in writing to the committee secretary so that they may be added to the record. All right, at this time, we'd like our committee policy analyst, Ms. Keller, to quickly present the committee brief.
Thank you, Chair Pazina. Elisa Keller, Committee Policy Analyst for the record, and I am looking forward to working with you all on the Senate Natural Resources Committee this session. As a reminder, as nonpartisan staff, I neither support nor oppose any of the legislation that will come before the committee, but I am available as a resource to each of you for research and background regarding natural resource issues. I've been with the Legislative Council Bureau since 2014, and since then I've staffed either the Senate Natural Resources Committee or Senate Government Affairs, mostly natural resources. Last session was Senate Government Affairs, but my background is as a geologist and then as a natural resources lawyer, so I'm happy to be back in Senate Natural Resources where all of my favorite topics reside. And hopefully my background will be valuable to all of you from a natural resources policy perspective. So I'd like to introduce you all to the committee brief. This is what it looks like, and it is available on Nellis, and I am sure that you are all familiar with the briefs that are created for each of the committees at this point in the week. So I am just going to quickly summarize its content. So the document is available on Nellis, which is the legislature's website, and it contains information regarding committee staff contacts, session deadlines, bill statistics for this committee from the last session, potential topics for the upcoming session, and links to reports and publications that may be of particular interest to the members of the committee. So members, please do reach out to me if any of you have any questions regarding the information contained in the brief. And of course, please do not hesitate to reach out to me at any time if I can provide you with research, policy assistance, or background on any of the issues related to matters that come before the committee. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Keller. During the next few meetings, the committee is going to be receiving several presentations from agencies and other organizations whose bills typically are referred to our committee to provide overviews of their organizations and really set the stage for our upcoming bill hearings. And our first such presentation is from the Department of Agriculture. We'd like to welcome Director Goicoechea. Director, please press the microphone, identify yourself for those of us up here who do not know you nor are related to you, and proceed with your presentation when ready.
Madam Chair, thank you. Let me get this chair up a little bit. It's a little hard on knees down there. All right. So my name is Dr. J.J. Goicoechea, common spelling, Goicoechea. Thank you for the opportunity today to present to the Natural Resource Committee on the Senate. Before I get started, I'll pull up my PowerPoint here so we have some talking points. Apologize, got a little frog in my voice, so my older brother will tell you I'm not always this soft-spoken, so I'll do my best. All righty. There's my name. I would like to acknowledge I do have some staff in the room today as well. I have Marco Markovic, Amara Vigil, and Doug Ferris with me in case you guys have some questions that I can't answer. We have the fiscal gurus and then kind of the old goat who's been here a long time in animal industry. He can help us out with any of those questions we might have back there as well. So the mission of the Nevada Department of Agriculture is to preserve, protect, and promote Nevada agriculture. This is a picture from a few years ago. They're on the steps of the Capitol. We have roughly 175 employees. We're not immune to the number of vacancies that a lot of state agencies have. Right now, we're running probably about 20%. That includes our seasonals and weights and measures plants, those kinds of programs. But we are actively recruiting, and we are happy that we are able to snipe some people away from local government. That flow isn't all going the other way. Nevada's agricultural economic impact, while we're not the largest, we did in 2020 have a $5.21 billion impact on the economy of Nevada. Most of that was food and beverage manufacturing, about $4.31 billion, and then about $900 million in ranching and farming, that hay and livestock predominantly in those. And you can tell that we're broke out pretty much across every county. Obviously, you know, Clark has a large piece of that, a little over $2 billion, but that again is kind of food and beverage distribution and manufacturing there. But every county represented, and agriculture does get all the way across the state of Nevada. We do have quite a large workforce as well, and it is broke out, again, probably no surprise, nearly 60% in food and beverage, and then 40% in the agriculture, food, and ranching. And what that looks like, the vast majority of those 1 to 5 employees, a lot of mom and pop operations, a lot of family operations, or you may have an employee or two that are there to help you out. Very small fraction have over 100, and then you can read the slide yourself. 16 to 100 is 8%, 17% in that 6 to 15 employee range. Where the majority of those employees are is actually in beef cattle ranching. It's probably no surprise to many of you who understand the geography of Nevada. It's a very diverse, wide open state, so it does take a lot of bodies at times to make sure those animals are cared for and that you're doing what you need to do, everything from fence repair to putting up hay, maintaining that water, water for wildlife, water for livestock, etc. The next biggest one there is hay farming and then dairies. So just a little bit about the department itself. We have 5 divisions. We have administrative services, plant health and compliance, animal industry, measurement standards, and food and nutrition. And while it says administrative services, as myself and Deputy Director Conrad, actually Amara here in the room today, she runs that side. Don't let anybody BS you. She's the real boss in that building, and she does a really good job over there. Division of Plant Health and Compliance is Administrator Ashley Jepson. She is just back from maternity leave. She's kind of getting back in the last 2 weeks, doing a wonderful job, and we're really glad to have Ashley back. I had the privilege of working with Ashley before when I was a state vet a few years ago, and just a wealth of knowledge, and does a really good job over there at Plant. And Division of Animal Industry, as I said, he's kind of the old goat over there at Animal Industry right now. He's been there for a while, Administrator Doug Ferris. Division of Measurement Standards, and that is an interim administrator. Bill Strajewski is there right now. William, we call him Bill. He has stepped up into that role. We did lose a really good administrator there right before the first of the year, and she actually went over to local government. Another one of those victim of better wages and a little better way for the family, if you will. Again, not just our agency. We're seeing that across the state. Division of Food and Nutrition, we have an interim administrator there as well, Patricia, and that vacancy is because of a retirement. Homer retired right there at the end of the calendar year. Excuse me. So Patricia's doing a great job. She's down in the Las Vegas office right now. She was the deputy administrator, and she stepped right in, and she understands those programs completely and is doing great. The department itself is overseen and governed by a Board of Agriculture in addition to the statutes that this body puts forward. And that Board of Agriculture is created by NRS 561. Last session, many of you probably remember, if you were here, that makeup of that board was changed. It was expanded, and the makeup was changed, and you can see that on there. 2 members in range and semi-range, 1 member everywhere else other than growing crops, and 1 of those must be a specialty crop. And so a specialty crop is defined in the 2014 Farm Bill. Fruits, nuts, floriculture, that kind of thing. It's either used for medicinal purposes, consumption, or it can just be, in the case of floriculture, aesthetic purposes, but 1 of those must be engaged in that. And then a little bit about what we touch on at Department of Agriculture. A lot of people don't understand just, how broad of a swath we do cut. So obviously planting, that's probably no surprise. Our plant industry side, everything from seeds, native seeds to seed inspection, looking for noxious weeds happens there, pesticides. We are in charge of that as well, and making sure our workers are safe and worker safety with the use of those restricted use pesticides. Livestock and production, that again, that's a big part of Nevada, everything from our livestock inspectors to our state veterinarian, veterinary diagnosticians, all fit underneath there, and then transportation. Everything from the fuel that goes into those vehicles to move this livestock, that's our responsibility. We're responsible for testing that fuel, making sure it meets that requirement, the lubrications that those engines run on, and then of course, our ag enforcement police are responsible for patrolling our roadways. If you're crossing the state with livestock, you may get stopped. We want to make sure you have your papers, you don't have any diseased animals on there, and then movement around the state. And they are also good at helping enforce our quarantine so animals aren't going where they're not supposed to be going in the state. Processing, milk processing there. We do some other food processing. We do have large produce industry here as well, garlic, onions, that kind of thing. So we have a footprint there as well. We do a lot of inspections. We have inspectors out in the field in those cases. Weights and measures, that's a picture there of someone testing a set of livestock scales. And it does take a lot of equipment and weights, and it's specialized equipment in order to do that. But commerce can occur if that isn't happening. If you don't have that sticker on those scales, then you're not able to ship that. And the other side of that is when you go to the grocery store and you buy your bananas, you buy your apples, you buy whatever, we test those scales as well. And when you go to the gas pump, we make sure that when you buy a gallon of gas, you get a gallon of gas. And at $5 a gallon, you want 1.1, you don't want 0.8 gallons. So we want to make sure that we're getting at least a gallon in there. Distribution speaks for itself, and we do have warehouses in the north and south, cold, freezer, refrigeration, and dry storage, distribute food and commodities, food banks, Indian reservations, schools, that kind of thing. And then trade assistance. We do have some trade missions. We have one person on staff that pretty much devotes all of his time to that. We do belong to the Western United States Agricultural Trade Group as well, and so we do have some international trade, and we'll touch on that on a subsequent slide. So Division of Plant Health and Compliance, as I said, that's everything from protecting agriculture to the public and the workers and the environment through our education, inspection, certification. A lot of that is the seeds. We want to make sure we're not bringing noxious plants in. We don't want contaminated seed. And then, of course, our pesticide use there. It's used in a safe manner, appropriate manner, and we're protecting our the employees that are putting that on, and then the general public. That's one of our big things, is public health at agriculture. Export certification program, if you want to export certain crops, seed, that kind of thing, then that is all handled through the Department of Agriculture. Again, safety, education, and compliance. Produce vendor certification, farmer market types things, we do that as well. And then our hemp program and specialty crop. There's been a lot of questions on hemp and cannabis. We do not regulate cannabis. That's not our thing. We do hemp. And if you're gonna process hemp, you must submit to the department at least 30 days prior to harvesting that hemp crop. So we can test that, and there's a federal regulation. It has to be below 0.3% THC. We encourage you, work with us early. So if there is a problem with that, we might be able to mitigate some of that. All crops are differently, and the way they're watered, the way they're growing, how they're handled. If we're a little close on the threshold, we may be able to do some things there. Unfortunately, if it's not, federal law is it must be destroyed. And that isn't something we all like to do, and there's a lot of money that goes out the window at times there, but that is, again, all part of what we have to do at the Department of Agriculture to ensure the safety of our public. We also, as I mentioned, the noxious weed program, we have a nursery program, and actually our nursery representative on the Board of Agriculture is a longtime nursery guy down in Las Vegas, Paul Noe, and he knows this stuff inside and out, and he makes sure that nursery industry is well represented on the board and at the Department of Ag. Entomology program, there in the middle is Jeff Knight, state entomologist. That is housed at the Department of Agriculture as well. He's the one guy. He's the Mormon cricket guy. He's the grasshopper guy. He's been there a long time, and he knows his stuff. So when you get your phone calls from your constituents, we've got crickets, or you get your phone calls that we've got grasshoppers, well, that all runs through his program, and we try to get out there and do what we can do, either through baiting or work cooperatively with some other agencies if we have to do some spraying and that kind of thing. And I've already mentioned the seed part of that. Environmental protection, so these are pesticide containers that we had recycled at the Department of Ag. And a couple of nights ago, I spoke to a pesticide group in Reno, and I met the contractor that has the contract for Department of Ag that actually chips all those and recycles those, and then they turn those back in to other usable plastic products. So it was really interesting to talk to him. He's got a lot of contracts across the western United States, but those aren't going into landfills. They need to be punctured, triple rinsed, all of that when you're done with them, but then they just don't go to a landfill or they're not burnt. We actually have a big recycling program at Ag. Pest control program, we actually do still distribute strychnine paste in a liquid form at the Department of Ag to help with that pest control and some gophers and squirrels below ground. And then our drought initiative, we do have a drought initiative in place over there. Need some more funding on that. I'll just leave that as it is, but we do need to do some more conservation work on that and work with our conservation districts a little bit closer on what we can do that way. Division of Animal Industry, this is where I spent my previous career with the Department of Agriculture as the state veterinarian over there, responsible for animal disease detection and prevention, food safety, livestock ID, livestock theft prevention, commercial feed, agriculture product, dealer licensing, and natural resource protection. So that's pretty much what everybody thinks of when they think of the Department of Agriculture, your brand inspectors, your veterinarians, your disease programs. But this is just an example on this slide of what we do. That is a sale barn on the western side of the state. We got a livestock inspector, brand inspector there inspecting cattle before they go through that sale. They make sure that paperwork's right, determine ownership, and allow those to go. We have predatory animal and rodent control program housed over there as well. They must meet at least annually. They had that meeting last week, and they set their priorities on what they're going to do on those predatory animals. We try to work really close with Department of Wildlife on programs that they're doing and projects, so we can kind of work together, and we're not just shotgun approaching this across the state. We want it to be very concise and the biggest bang for the buck, if you will. Dairy program here, obviously testing ready to go to the consumer milk there, but we also have inspectors in the field that do testing of dairy goats, dairy cattle, dairy ewes, sheep. In that case, testing on the farm, pulling milk samples from tanks on the farm. That is all part of that dairy program. And then, of course, our animal disease lab. We have 2 animal disease labs in the state. The one in Elko currently isn't operating. We have a vacancy there, and we are actively recruiting for a microbiologist in that. In fact, there were interviews, I believe, a week before last for that position, and try to get that laboratory doing some more again. Sparks Lab is the only lab in the state that tests for rabies. And you see a bat there. We do have rabies in the state of Nevada. We see multiple positive bats with rabies every year. So just a little PSA, if you see a bat and he's in your house or he's in your school or he's in your workplace and it's during the middle of the day and he's on the ground, he's probably sick. Don't handle him with your bare hands. Gloves, bags, that kind of thing, call animal control. That will be sent to us. And if you are exposed to one of those, scratch bit, et cetera, make sure that you do have it tested. And that is our job at the Department of Ag to do that testing. And we do it very routinely, especially in the fall of the year and early winter as they start to migrate and get ready to hibernate. Division of Measurement Standards. This is, again, the fuel side of that is probably the sexy side of measurement standards. We make sure that the motor fuel and lubricants are consistent for commercial transactions. We regulate the device itself that pumps it. As I said, we want to make sure it's right. And then we want to determine if that fuel, excuse me, is in fact what it's supposed to be. And that's our metrology program, second down on this slide. So we do test that fuel, that it is consists of what it's supposed to, has the qualities it's supposed to, the octane it is supposed to, et cetera. That metrology program runs out of the Sparks office up here in Reno, Sparks. Food and nutrition. We administer federal funds to provide access to healthy food for Nevada children, seniors, and food insecure populations. Child Nutrition Commodity Program is a big one on there, Farm to School Program, State Processing Program, Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program, Special Milk, National School Breakfast and Lunch Programs. And I just want to touch on this because I know we've had some other questions on this as well. We do offer, and you can purchase whole muscle. If you want chicken nuggets, for example, or if you want a chicken breast, they can get that. The schools have to buy these with their funds that they are allocated. And so if they end up buying those instead of a processed product, then that takes away from their budget. So it has to come from somewhere else. So the peas and carrots, that thing will have to come off if the protein costs more, for example, and that's just kind of a crude example. But we get a lot of questions about, well, why isn't the food any better? And why can't you guys do that any better? It's just a matter of budget, and those school programs, they purchase that. And so it is up to them and those local school districts on what they are purchasing and what they are serving. Senior nutrition programs, this is something that I really like, and I'll just give you a prime example of that is the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program. We actually have vouchers or booklets that we give to our seniors. If you have any of your constituents that are interested in that, get a hold of the Department of Agriculture. But what those are for, you can take that booklet and there's coupons in them, and you take them to your farmer's market and allows your seniors to cash those in for fresh fruits and vegetables. So our local farmers benefit from that because they get that money. And then our seniors obviously benefit from it because a lot of them are on a fixed income and they can have that fresh fruit and vegetable right there if the markets are running year round, but usually that tends to be more seasonal. Community support programs, emergency food assistance program, about 2 million citizens accessed that last year. Child and adult care food programs, and then food distribution on our reservations. Division of Administrative Services, so I went through everybody else first because they have the really good jobs that matter. We're just kind of the ones that are the glue, or sometimes we're probably the glue trap. If you ask them, we kind of hinder them at times, but we're the ones that have to make sure the money's where it needs to be. So as we're doing these programs that our budgets fit, we're the ones that have to worry about doing the work programs. If we run a little low somewhere, we need to bump something up. The global trade, as I talked about, the funds allocated to that program are only $19,000. But we leverage that $19,000 against funding we see from the USDA, and we go on trade missions. In 2021, we're $359 million in agriculture, food, and beverage commodities were exported from Nevada. The top countries for those were South Korea, Canada, Peru, and Mexico. And so you might think, well, what are we sending out? Coffee, tea, mate, dairy products. Some of that is the dry milk. Eggs, honey, prep cereal, flour, starch, again, including our milk, our dry milk from a plant there in Fallon, meat, prepared vegetables, fruits, nuts, pretty much everything we have exported internationally. So looking ahead where we want to go as an agency, the one goal that I have, we've done a really good job in the agency of getting the statutory changes we needed and putting regulations in place, but we've got to do a better job of being consumer-based and customer-based. We want to get back out and re-engage with the public. We want to re-engage with our farmers and ranchers. We want to re-engage with those that are using our food and nutrition programs. And we also have to help take care of our employees. I'll just tell you, when I onboarded 3 weeks ago at the Department of Ag, the onboarding process was less than smooth. And today, I finally think I got the last piece of paperwork done. And so if the director is having that much trouble, our employees are having that kind of trouble too. And so we're really focused on how can we make that smoother. It's hard enough to get good people to come over, but when it takes you 3 weeks to figure out how to get your benefits, or to figure out if your pay is even right, or to figure out how to get enrolled in PERS, they just get frustrated. And we want a happy team. We want a happy team over there, because if they're happy, they're making everybody else happy. And then we want to enhance our economic opportunities for all ag sectors, as I said. And the easiest way to do that, we got to build those relationships with local government and our non-governmental organizations. We got to get back to talking to the Farm Bureau. We got to get back to talking to the cattle producers, whether it's Nevada Cattlemen or whoever that might be. We got to work with our conservation districts. We have a seat on that commission, and we have to do a better job making sure our soil health is a priority, and we're back to doing what really matters on the ground. Because like I said, we've done a really good job of building the framework, and so we've got to hang some meat on this skeleton and get back to our true mission of preserving and protecting agriculture. And with that, here's my contact information. Credits to Samantha Bellwood, my executive assistant, for putting this together. And I bet right now she's really happy that I didn't bring this up, but I'm going to bring it up because it's at the end. And Senator Goycochea will appreciate this. The slide that showed the counties, when I started reviewing this, one county was missing, Eureka County. And I said, Sam, of all counties, to leave off that chart. And so she hurried up and put it back in and amended it. But she does a really good job. If you need to get a hold of me, get a hold of Sam, and she'll know where I am, and she'll run me down and make sure that I am responsive. So with that, I will rest for questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Director. Are there any questions from the members? Senator Hansen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. JJ, great to see you in that position. Quick question. One thing I always look for is duplication in government. You have a rodent and predator control program in ag. We also have a predator control program in wildlife. Have you ever considered, or now that you're the director, something to put that program under ag? I know they took it out of Interior and moved it to ag federally, as I recall. Wildlife Services is now under ag. I think the budget's, pushing $1 million a year from the tag allocation, $3. Just wondering if that's something we can consider and put on the radar to help streamline some of those programs, and frankly, put it in an agency that seems to want to do it rather than one that is forced to do it.
Madam Chair, through you to Senator Hansen, unless you'd like me to go direct.
Please go direct. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Senator. So as I mentioned, we make it a priority to try to work with Endow and those projects that they have over there. You are correct. That funding is, there's a large portion over there. We do work hand in hand with Wildlife Services, both the federal, and we have state employees in the state. for wildlife services that do that work as well. We have not had those conversations about consolidating that into one house yet, but Director Janae and I do have our scheduled regular meetings, and I believe they'll start next week or the week after. So I'm sure that your comment will trigger some conversation between us, sir.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
You don't have to, no, this is very simple, but I was looking at your ag board and specialty crops. So clearly hemp would be a specialty crop, I'm assuming. How about cannabis? Would a cannabis grower sit on this board?
So Senator Goycochea, thank you for that question. And actually, if I review that, and I don't have those notes on there, I do not believe that hemp and cannabis are considered a specialty crop in the 2014 Farm Bill. I believe they were separate. I did not see them listed on there. Now, the one caveat may be the medicinal section of that. So if that was the case, then yes, I believe that they could sit on here if they are truly a specialty crop under the 2014 Farm Bill. And I will dig into that and make sure, but that they were not listed by name in that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I appreciate you asking the really hard questions of the director.
I'll get even with him later.
Are there any further questions? All right. Seeing no further questions, Director, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, committee.
All right. Our final order of business is public comment. Is there any public comment here in Carson City? Don't all rush the microphone together. All right. BPS, is there anyone waiting to provide public comment on the phone lines?
Chair, your public line is open and working, but you have no callers at this time.
So I will take that as a no. All right, seeing no further public comment, that does conclude our first meeting. Our next meeting will be on Tuesday, February 14th. Meeting is adjourned.